Where are you, Mr. Pandasaurus? I'm not going to hurt you, I just want to help you.
Hello and welcome to another bad movie review. This time we are looking at Pandasaurus. This is a 2024 film that runs about an hour and 18 minutes, directed by Mark Polonia, written by Carlos Perez and Mark Polonia. It stars Titus Himmelberger, Natalie Himmelberger, Kevin Coolidge, Ken Van Zant, and Mark Polonia. There are, of course, a handful of others. It's not a very cast-heavy film. Now, you will probably recognize some of these people from other films by Mark Polonia, including Ken Van Zant, who was in Sharkenstein, and several other really fun low-budget films. I always start off with a lot of zoo footage, because stock footage is the name of the game here. We suddenly see a dinosaur appear, and it looks like it's stop motion, which is kind of a cool throwback. And it appears at the panda exhibit, apparently. And then it attacks Mr. O'Brien, one of the owners of the zoo, and just when it's about to attack his wife Norma, the Pandasaurus saves her. Now this is of course a dream sequence, so we don't get to count these kills because these characters don't actually die, which is really annoying. Now we are interspersing a lot of what look like news footage and interview segments in this film, so it makes it a little hard to follow, and that is one of the main flaws with this film, but we'll get to more of that in a second. So here we meet the zoo owners. They seem to have some real issues, and that is McAllister O'Brien and Norma O'Brien. They went on their honeymoon to the Caribbean, and they ended up getting marooned on a mysterious island for a few days, and they found an egg there before they were rescued. The egg hatched, and it was a half panda, half dinosaur creature, the Pandasaurus. Now, their shrink thinks this is all in their heads, and there is no Pandasaurus because nobody sees it for a long time. The news crew comes out to interview them, but they never see the Pandasaurus. There's a lot of B-roll zoo footage around this time, and again, that becomes very distracting from the film. We do get some cool stop-motion figures with this, I don't know, it looks like an old Rancor action figure repainted and dressed up to look like the Pandasaurus. It's about the same size if you remember the 1983 Return of the Jedi toy. Then you're old, so congratulations. And those stop motion scenes are really well done. Unfortunately, that doesn't always carry through when you see the Pandasaurus. Sometimes they're actually holding it like it's a baby and it doesn't move or anything, and that's a little weird. But then they get these cool stop motion scenes that are not nearly enough of in the film. We also meet a guy who's Jimmy the Panda fan, who was probably my favorite character in the movie. He was played by Nathan Maldona, and I think should have been the hero of this film. If he had gone full savage barbarian mode and just been shirtless with the stupid mask and a necklace of panda toenails or something on, carrying a battle axe, that would have been awesome. But unfortunately, that does not happen in the film. He does try and kill the Pandasaurus, but unfortunately, it is not nearly as cool as I wanted it to be. It was an okay scene. It just wasn't as cool as I would have made it. Now, the Pandasaurus doesn't escape the enclosure. They made some mistakes as zoo owners putting this thing with other animals, and it backfires horribly on them. The O'Briens contact Professor Hansen, played by Ken Van Zant, and he does a fine job. But this whole sequence is pretty boring. There's a lot of wandering around, a lot of talking, a lot more talking, then some more talking, and then a lot more talking and wandering around. I started to think I was watching a weird Lord of the Rings knockoff. And all the news segments started to make it look like a low-end infomercial after a while, so that was kind of frustrating too. And we see what is going to be our first real victim of the movie around this time. It's a woman trying to get her car working, and her idea of that is just to tap on things and not actually do anything, but she's supposed to look like she is, and she clearly has no idea what to do. So she just sort of pokes stuff, and it looks really weird. And it's around this time that you start to notice how inconsistent the sound levels are, and that's a little frustrating to deal with as well. Although Ken Van Zant does have a really cool line around this time where he said, he's walking through the woods and he says, "Where are you, Mr. Pandasaurus?" And I thought that was really funny. That was probably the best scene in the entire film. The guy that plays Detective Marsh, which is Kevin Coolidge, does a pretty decent job. He has some good one-liners as well. But again, there's a lot of inconsistency in the scenes where he just sort of pops up places and there's no real seeming logic logic to it. We do get one reflection in a car window of the crew, and you can see a camera guy. That's about it. And that was pretty fun to find. A good little Easter egg. And I thought there would be more of that, but there really wasn't. They did a pretty good job keeping the boom out of their shots and being a little more attentive to where reflections are. Now, the Pandasaurus is supposedly going on a rampage, but we see only like some stock footage of burning vehicles and references to it. We never actually see this rampage. And we are given a kind of weird ending with a sort of opening for a sequel, which hopefully is done a little bit better than this, because this was really disappointing on a lot of levels. The stop motion was really well done, and it looks a little dated and cheesy, but it works for what they're doing, but there's not enough of it. You barely really see the Pandasaurus do anything. It's mostly just people talking about it and sort of milling around, not accomplishing anything. So unfortunately, I'm not going to recommend this. I think it had some good ideas, but it looks like it either ran out of money or ran into some technical problems trying to get this to come together, because it really just doesn't work. And although there is a sort of coherent story here, it seems like there's a lot of scenes that are missing. And they sort of rush the appearance of the Pandasaurus at the end to the public at large, and we never really see much of anything of it, including it damaging or destroying anything. There's one scene where it's holding a car, and that's about it. It's obviously a Hot Wheels, but I'd rather have seen a bunch of Hot Wheels cars getting thrown around than not see the Pandasaurus doing anything, which is what we get. So unfortunately, it is a pretty weak movie that relies heavily on a catchy name and great box art. There were some good performances by people that are effectively not actors or B-movie circuit actors, and they were fine, but there was a lack of nudity, a lack of monster, because this is supposed to be a monster movie, and with only 6 deaths, it's not exactly gonna blow you away with any of the kill counts or anything like that, or amazing deaths. Most of them are pretty disappointing. So I have to say there was a lot of potential here, especially with Jimmy the Panda guy. He could have been an action hero all his own in the most spectacular B movie of all time, where Jimmy fights the Pandasaurus as a barbarian fighting a dinosaur slash panda, and that would have been way cooler than what we got, unfortunately. So it was just too inconsistent, and there wasn't enough Pandasaurus in here, and I think the attempts at doing it as like a sort of newscast documentary type thing really fell apart and lacked a lot of consistency. So I was really disappointed with this film, and as I said, I'm not going to recommend it. It just falls apart in all the wrong ways, but maybe the sequel will be better. I hope so, because it does kind of need to have a sequel that is better than this one just to kind of make up for this film. So very weak entry into the giant monster movies. Don't bother with this one, just skip over it and go watch Sharkenstein instead. That's going to do it for this one. Thank you for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the episode, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. If you'd like to help the channel out in other ways, links are in the description to various support methods. And as always, we hope to see you on the next one.